Welcome back to Voidheart Studios, and today I'm going to be reviewing the SMILEY by Mighty Shrub. The SMILEY is a 3D printed blaster designed by Mighty Shrub and Mr. Heath Pants, and it is a bolt-action, magazine-fed Springer that, well, we'll get into why it's taking talons later. So, first up, well, I guess I really have to talk about the elephant in the room right now. This girl's got some work done. So how do I even approach this? I bought this blaster pre-owned from somebody in my group. That person in my group, which I will link his printables page below, has designed a front-end kit for the SMILEY that makes it look like vaguely resembling a firearm called the Delisle carbine, and that's what this is. And he even snuck the SMILEY's logo onto the nose, which I think is really funny. That's this little thing this up here is a mimic of the SMILEY's logo, which is also embossed on the grip. And yeah, this person has also done a talon conversion on it. So normally this blaster takes Nightingale mags. Okay. Normally this blaster takes Nightingale mags, but again, the person I bought it from wanted it to take talons when he made it, so he found a talon kit. I'll try to link to that as well. Anyways, up at the front, there's no N-strike barrel lug, but there is a smiley face on the muzzle. Up at the top, there are your iron sights, and they're fine sights. They're a little far forward than I want them to be, or at least than I want the rear sight to be. And I might play most of my games with this front end kit off, because then I can mount an optic on it easier and use that. Make it truly hashtag sniper status, like the glorious bolt action it is. Because this kit is removable. It does use a custom front end. It just has some screw holes and a slot to slide this giant F-all barrel shroud on. But if you take out... But, of course, it's these two screws, and this screw removes all this cosmetic mess off the front end. Of course, so you can also get into the blaster and service it. Change out the barrel because it uses a collet system, like the silly collet, or the red cowl. It uses a red cowl collet. But I think there's also a silly collet version. I'm not sure. Don't at me on that one. Going back past all this is, we actually get to the blaster. Which on the top you have a tactical rail. On the bottom you have a nice little place to put your hand when there's not a giant 3D printed brick on the front. I'm not trying to be mean. This is just a very large piece. Well, it's actually two pieces, but still. It's large. Anyways, going back here, you have the mag well and the mag release. To take out the mag, you strike the mag release. And then, of course, to put in a mag, you just slide it in like that. Some talons might need a little slap on the ass to get them in there, but whatever. And I love that. I kind of do love that this uses a talon conversion, because I can use my 5-round gnarl mag in it for just cosmetic purposes, because it looks funny. Of course, going back here, you have the bolt handle and the trigger. And to prime the blaster, you pull back the bolt, and then you push the priming handle forward to close the breech. And of course, you let the bolt go down. Mine's loose enough it can go down on its own. I should probably tighten it, but whatever. And then, to fire the blaster, you pull the trigger. This blaster does not have slam fire. Obviously, it is a bolt action meant to be used as a sniper rifle, but you can deprime it due to that. All you have to do is take it into your offhand, and you hold here, I'll just show y'all how to deprime it. If you ever prime it back on empty, and you don't want to fire anymore, even though it does have a skinny pusher, so you don't have to prime it back to take out the mag. If you ever accidentally do that, so hold the bolt in the rear position with your primary hand, hold the grip and the trigger with your offhand, and then while pulling back on the bolt, pull the trigger and just let that spring ride forward. And yeah, that's how it goes. Back behind the trigger and the bolt handle is the grip. And this is a beefcake of a grip. Of course, it has to house the entire plunger tube inside, which that's how it works. The plunger tube is inside the grip. And it uses metal bars to prime the spring diagonally down while the bolt is riding straight back. It's a very interesting system to get a bolt action this compact. But yeah, going back behind the grip, you have the stock, which feels really nice to use, and it even has a sling hook point, which is nice. Love sling hook points when blasters have them by default, and I don't have to put an ugly little tab on it on the rail, or grab a particularly loose bar or grab a particularly random bar and just attach a carabiner to it. Yeah. And underneath the stock you have this little thingamadonker, which if you pull out this pin and I think a couple of screws. Yeah, I think it's this pin and this screw. The spring will come out, and you can quick spring swap, which is just really nice. Anyways, yeah. And another thing that makes me particularly happy about this blaster, the bolt handle is easily interchangeable. Why couldn't you have done that, Cynthia? Anyways, the barrel is, or the bolt handle is interchangeable. All you have to do is take out this giant screw right here. I think it's an M8. Can't remember. But you have to take out this big screw here. Take off this little, well, on mine it's like bronze gold piece. And then you can just swap the bolt handle around. And if you do buy this blaster and intend on running it at an FPS near or over 200, this is a CNC metal bolt handle. Buy that. If you want to run this at any semblance of high FPS, buy the CNC bolt handle. Because if you don't, the printed bolt handle is going to break. So yeah. Anyways, let us take this blaster outside and fire it. Alright, I am back outside with the SMILEY, and yeah, this is another different place. See, I had to record in the morning again because the evening I was going to record, I was playing board games with my mother, and I wanted to do that more than record. So I'm recording in the morning again, and the cursed Daystar is providing too much glare for me to record anything reasonable quality in my normal shooting range. So this shall serve as a substitution. Got my target downrange, and let's blink. Of course, those were worker darts. I forgot to mention that. And now I've got some Dart Zone Nitro Shot darts. There they go. Okay. What I just did there was a technique called the Mad Minute, which is a firing technique that is used for the firearm that the Smiley is based off of, the SMLE, or the something Enfield. But yeah, the Smiley was specifically designed so you can do the technique called the Mad Minute, where you keep your block, please. There we go. Where you keep your firing hand positioned on the bolt, like this, and you fire with your middle finger, rather than taking your hand off the grip and putting it back, or off the bolt and putting it back on the grip. All right. Now finally, we got embers. Lego. Good shot. Low. Pocket. Low. Really short. All right. Alright, that'll be it for my firing demo of the Smiley. Let us go back inside out of the heat. It's only 9:30, why is it already this hot? Ugh, Texas. Texas is why. Anyways, let us proceed with blathering. Alright, I am back inside with the Smiley. Let's talk about it. Starting off with the practical stuff, we go into the chronograph results. I did indeed put this blaster over my chronograph, and I achieved an average velocity of 157 FPS, with a standard deviation of around 40. I'm gonna have to get that looked at, because I think what might have happened here is it has a 5.27 barrel. 0.527 inner diameter barrels are obsolete because they're too wide and they cause inconsistency issues with half darts. That was my same issue that I had with my Talon Claw, and I'm going to review that soon because I got it fixed. I did not realize this had such inconsistency issues because I did not chrono test this blaster until I did the chrono test for this recording. I did my regular testing procedure of just, firing consistency, feeding consistency, all that. But I did not test the FPS consistency, which I did see it was a little inconsistent, but didn't realize it was that much. It had a low of in the chronograph, it had a low of 138 and a high of 177. But it averaged out to a clean 157. So yeah, I'm going to fix that. Gonna get a more consistent barrel and probably a different spring. I don't know. I'll have to see what it's in, because right now it's got K25 in it, I think. Or some sort of K25 adjacent creature. But yeah. FPS is a little inconsistent on my model. It shouldn't be if you take the proper care into putting the right barrel on yours, because Out of Darts has this screwy little thing, because I think this might be an Out of Darts kit that he used for the hardware. Out of Darts does this funky thing where, despite it being 2026 and those being very much functionally obsolete, they still use 5.27 barrels in all their kits, even if they don't use slug rams. Because, like, yeah, you would need a 5.27 or a chambered barrel to use a slug ram, but not for anything else. So I would definitely recommend going for 13mm, 509, tight bore, 495, whatever you deem necessary. For new players or casuals, I would just recommend 509. I use 509 in all of mine that don't need a chambered barrel or a threaded barrel, and in that case, I use 13mm because it's close enough. But yeah, anyways, all that junk aside, I don't really care that this blaster has really inconsistent FPS, because this blaster is very, very fun. The fun factor of a blaster can really change my view. I will talk about the practical stuff, and I will warn people of the practical stuff, but God, this blaster's fun. I love bolt actions, and this makes me feel like a sniper and all that, and the Mad Minute thing is really cool. And I need to get better at doing that fast, because I'm sure people can do this really fast. I'm also priming back kind of a heavy spring, so there is that factor. I'm sure you could Mad Minute a Smiley really easy if you had like a really light spring in here. One thing you can also do to a Smiley very easily is you can obrez it very easily. What is an obrez? An obrez, this is a firearm term, is a Kar 98K without the stock and with a short barrel. Even though this is based on the SMLE, you can obrez it with, but you literally just have to take off these two screws. These are the only screws that hold the stock in. Just take off the stock and just throw a shorter barrel in. It's that easy. And so, yeah. The Smiley is a very, very cool blaster, and I do adore it. Mighty Shrub, she did an amazing job at designing this blaster and taking... Because this blaster was essentially designed based off of the Renfield Mark III by Mr. Heath Pants. And he was having issues with the blaster, causing him to not release it yet, and all that. And so, Shrub, I think the story was Shrub asked him for permission to see the files and design something off of those. And what she did was make the Smiley. I think that's how it happened. Don't entirely remember the whole story. I watched the one podcast that I think it was Foam News Collective did with Shrub, where they interviewed her about the Smiley. You should go watch that podcast, by the way. Foam News Collective. They've got cool people, and they interview designers and all that. But yeah, overall this is a very enjoyable blaster, and I highly recommend printing one or picking one up. Yeah. I'm going to leave links in the description for the hardware kit, the files, the oh jeez. I'm going to see if I can find somebody who's got a listing for it where you can get it fully assembled. And I'm also going to leave a listing, or a linking, a link to the listing on printables for this Delisle carbine kit, as well as I'll try to find the straight Talon conversion kit. And I really hope you did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy, then please leave a like and subscribe and comment your favorite thing about the Smiley. And I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.